It's time for Northwestern Outdoors Radio, the award-winning show that covers fishing, hunting, and all sorts of outdoor recreation here in the Great Northwest. Northwestern Outdoors is brought to you every week by Max Lure Company, a legacy of innovation since 1969, by Loophole Optics, America's optical authority, by Camp Chef, the way to cook outdoors,
by Wallowa County.
Nature is on display in Northeast Oregon, and by The Real News, your fishing resource. Also by Shilo Inns and Suites, providing you with affordable excellence. And by Mardon Resort, the place for fishing, hunting, and more in Eastern Washington. And now, it's time to head outside with your host, John Cruz.
Hey, I'm glad you're here, and guess what? We're heading to the coast this week. That's right. I love going to the beach in the winter. It's uncrowded, and at a lot of places this time of year, you get a chance to see whales, seals, and sea lions, and storm watching can be a ton of fun. There's also bird watching to be had too, but perhaps the best thing about going to the coast at this time of year in either Washington or Oregon is the chance to get a whole bunch of razor clams. The clamming this year is about as good as it gets. There's some 16 million. That's right, 16 million clams, the highest number ever recorded on the Clatsop beaches along the northern Oregon coast between the mouth of the Columbia River and Tillamook Head. There are also fantastic razor clamming opportunities on several southwest Washington beaches, and we're going to find out not only about where to clam there, but get some good tips too on how to do this for maximum success when we visit with Steve Green at the Ocean Shores Interpretive Center. Once you have all those clams, you're going to want to cook them up. There's a lot of ways to do it, but one of the tastiest ways to enjoy razor clams is in a bowl of hot clam chowder. Doug Graybeal, the executive chef for the restaurant and lounge at the Shilo Inn in Ocean Shores and an award-winning chowder chef, has got some advice to help you whip up a delicious bowl of chowder you won't soon forget. Doug isn't the only one who knows how to cook clam chowder in Ocean Shores. Turns out there's a razor clam festival and seafood extravaganza that takes place the third weekend of March there. And if you go, you can sample all sorts of different clam chowder recipes from cooks competing for the prize of having the best chowder of all. Dianne Hansen, the dynamo of a woman who puts this festival together every year, is going to tell you not only about the chowder competition, but about some of the other fun things going on during this unique festival. In addition to razor clamming, we're going to be talking to Merle Schuler about the Eastern Washington sportsman shows he produces that are coming up in the next few weeks, and we're bringing Brian Tim back on board, a pro staffer for Max Lure Company, who we got to talk to at the big Pacific Northwest Sportsman Show last year about fishing for walleye in the Willamette River, a place that doesn't get a lot of attention from anglers who target these fish. But before we get into all of this and head to the beach to dig up our limit of clams, David Sparks has a new edition of Sportsman Spotlight for you. This week, David goes hunting for action on YouTube.
Hunting on YouTube. David Sparks, Sportsman Spotlight. Something took me to YouTube the other day, and because I'm in the hunting and fishing community, a group of, quote, videos that I should watch, unquote, appeared. One of them was entitled Only Impact Shots by a hunter photographer named Jacques Strauss. I clicked on it and I heard the following music. There was some text that said impact shots of animals taken with bow and arrows at Cowas hunting safaris in Namibia. I saw some kind of African antelope drinking at a waterhole. I was mindful of stories from hunting friends in Wyoming who sit in blinds by a waterhole waiting for their antelope. Anyway, the dramatic music plays, you know what's going to happen, and then out of nowhere, zing! An arrow strikes the front shoulder area. There is a line of text that says, notice, take a close look at the ability of these animals to string jump the arrow. It's amazing. Next shot is that of two wildebeest drinking in a watering hole. Again, zing! The wildebeest drops like a ton of bricks, literally. These types of shots and other hunting videos that you can see all throughout YouTube are graphic, but then, let's be honest, isn't hunting graphic? I don't know whether Mr. Strauss eats what he harvests, but my guess is that he does. Never tried wildebeest steaks, and don't think I'm about to. Of course, you have to endure some of the snide comments from the anti-hunting crowd, but oh well. Truth is, find an internet connection and you can go on any kind of hunting expedition you want. This is David Sparks for Sportsman Spotlight.
We grow hard red winter wheat in south central Washington State, a little over 20,000 acres.
Nicole Berg of Lindsay Ranch is a past president of the Washington Association of Wheat Growers, and as a very savvy farmer and businesswoman, she knows how to make good choices.
We actually have been with Machinery Links since they started. We were one of the first people in the state of Washington to start using Machinery Link in our business plan. Part of the reason we decided to use Machinery Link was we didn't want to put a bunch of cash invested in a piece of equipment that depreciates. Plus, if we purchase one, can we put enough hours in it to justify owning the machine? The other part of it is our business plan actually entails using more up-to-date equipment, trying to keep up with technology, which changes as soon as our cell phone changes, which is about every year. So Machinery Link's one of those ways that we keep up with technology and the new machines. Although it makes it every year, we have to learn how to drive them.
MachineryLink.com. Call 844-CROP-USA.
Looking for the ultimate cooking machine for your backyard or patio? Look no further than Camp Chef's new pellet grill and smoker. With user-friendly features like an auto ignition, digital readouts, and internal meat temperature sensors, it's easy to smoke the tastiest salmon, ribs, brisket, and turkey you'll ever eat. And an innovative system makes cleanup a snap. Everyone will want the food you're cooking on your Camp Chef pellet grill and smoker. The quality smoker that's second to none. Find out more at campchef.com. Camp Chef, the way to cook outdoors.
More habitat equals more wildlife. Pheasants Forever is working hard every day to ensure there's more wildlife habitat for the future. Join the habitat leader and help create wildlife habitat in your community. To join us, go to pheasantsforever.org.
You're back with Northwestern Outdoors Radio. I'm John Cruz. It's Sportsman Show season, and we are talking to Merle Schuler. He produces a couple of great shows that are going to be of interest to you, whether you live in North Central Oregon or anywhere east of the Cascades in Washington State. Merle, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, John. Glad to be here.
Merle, couple shows we need to talk about. One of them is coming up next week. It's the Tri-City Show taking place at the track in Pasco. Kicks off the Sportsman Show season for Oregonians and Washingtonians. I love this show. Tell our listeners more about it.
Well, it's as you just said, it's the first show in the area that's going to be going at that time, and we try to get as many new things and exciting things as we can to the show, like the Northwest Big Game. Well, David Morris is going to be there with some brand new animals that were taken this last hunting season, and this will be the first place you can see those animals, even ahead of Portland and Puyallup.
You know, something I like about the Tri-City Show is you always have a very healthy number of exhibitors there, not just guides and outfitters, but all sorts of other people that basically have an interest in the outdoors and some of the things that are kind of related to the outdoors. You usually have some good retailers, too. Is there going to be any retailers with really good deals at the Tri-City Show this year?
Yeah, there is, and we've got them kind of split up, so you can kind of go check one of them out, and then if you think you can get a better deal at the other one, go check them out. And yeah, we got Greg's department store from Pasco. They have a really good selection of hunting and fishing gear. And then the last few years, Ranch and Home from Kennewick. If any of the listeners have ever been to their sporting goods section, they'll see that there's just a lot of stuff that they have, and they're going to also be at the show. So not exactly sure what they're going to have, but I know that both of them last year were there, and both of them had real good deals on fishing lures, such as Yakima bait products for salmon fishing and stuff like that. So yeah, there'll definitely be some retailers.
In addition to this, I know a big draw at the Tri-City Show, well, actually both of your shows, but starting off the Tri-City Show is you usually have a really good set of speakers that basically help you become a better fisherman, a better hunter, and in some cases, if C-Dub Welch is back, a better cook too.
Yeah, C-Dub, it's kind of an ongoing joke that years ago I told him that I only have my seminar people come back once or twice, and then I'll give them several years off because I like to have fresh speakers. Well, this will be like the 16th year in a row that C-Dub's been there. But he just does an excellent job with his cooking. He has something new every year. He told me on the phone the other day that he didn't want to tell me right now, but he's going to have something new he's going to start promoting at the show. So you have to go to the Tri-City Show to see what he's got cooking for this next year.
Well, you got me hooked. And folks, if you haven't met C-Dub before, he's one of the most personable people you're ever going to meet, and he is a master when it comes to Dutch oven cooking and outdoor cooking in general. Any other speakers that you're excited about for the Tri-City Show in terms of the fishing or hunting side of things?
Well, you know what I did this year at the Tri-Cities, especially, John, is because of salmon fishery that's been just phenomenal the last few years, is I keyed on some local guys that they live there, they know the water, they know what to use. I got TJ Hester, he was the fishing management ranch and home last year. This year he's just on his own guiding and stuff, and I got Scott Atwood doing steelhead. These are all local guys, and they know where to fish, and they know how to fish them. So that's kind of the angle I went this year at the Tri-Cities. There's going to be a bunch of speakers, and they know how to fish the local water.
Well, there you go, folks. That's the Tri-City Show. It's taking place at the Track in Pasco. Starts on Friday, January 16th, runs through Sunday, the 18th. I can't wait to attend. I love this show. Let's talk about the other show that you're putting on this year, though, the Central Washington Sportsman Show at the Yakima Sun Dome. Tell our listeners about this one.
Well, it's the oldest show in the area. This is our 26th annual show. It was the first one I ever did, and it's a good one. I put my heart and soul in it. I used to live in Yakima. I've since moved to Goldendale, an hour and a half away, but it's still probably my favorite show in the Sun Dome. And we're doing something a little different this year. We've got the normal attractions, the fish pond for the kids, and the air rifle range is coming back. We haven't had one of those at Yakima for the last few years, but we have local clubs going to be running an archery, kids archery range, and an air rifle range. But Cabela's contacted me about doing a cooking show at the Yakima Central Washington Sportsman Show.
Nice.
And what this is, they're sending some people from Cabela's, from Sidney, Nebraska, is going to come. They're going to film this, and Tiffany Haugen, she's from Oregon. Scott Haugen is her husband, who does a couple different TV shows on the Outdoor Channel, hunting shows. That's her husband, Scott. And Tiffany's going to be running the cooking aspect of it at the show. And while she's doing this, a TV crew is going to be filming it as she's doing it. So people can come and maybe be on TV, maybe not, but they can watch her cook and maybe have the chance to get on TV.
Well, whether you're on TV or not, if you get the chance to go to this show and meet Tiffany Haugen, you're in for a real treat. She is one of the nicest people in this industry, and she's an absolutely fabulous cook when it comes to outdoor cooking. She knows it all.
That's exactly what I heard. And when they contacted me about doing this, of course, there's a local store in Union Gap, so there's an angle there for them to get some more exposure. But for us to get Tiffany to come to the show, as you say, she's an excellent cook and can teach a lot of people different ways to cook wild game.
You're listening to Northwestern Outdoors Radio. We're talking about two upcoming shows. The first one is the Sportsman Show in the Tri-Cities, taking place January 16th through the 18th. The second one is the Central Washington Sportsman Show. That one's in Yakima in February. What are the dates for that one, Merle?
That one is February 20, 21, and 22.
That's another 3-day show, Friday through Sunday, the 20th through the 22nd. And, by the way, if you go to the Yakima show, stop by our booth. That's right. We're going to be there, the Northwestern Outdoors Radio crew. We're going to be doing some giveaways while we're there. But let's talk about something you touched on here. Kids attractions, always really big at your shows. I love the fact that you've got the archery, air rifle, and range in the trout pond at the Yakima show. What do you got going at the Tri-City show for the kids this year?
Well, it's going to be basically the same as it's always been, but they're just, they're so popular. That's the reason we just keep having them come back. We got the kids fishing pond at the Tri-Cities, and they do it a little differently than the club does at Yakima. Richmond Rod and Gun Club runs it at the Tri-Cities, and they actually go around to the merchants and collect prizes to be given away at the fish pond, and they actually tag fish. And then we got the air rifle range, which is free. They can shoot the targets with air rifle range at the air rifle range. Then they got the Koliak Archery Club as a kids balloon shoot, where they instruct them how to shoot a bow and arrow, and they can shoot at balloons on a wall, and that's always fun.
We are starting to run short of time, but two things I want to mention. The Wenatchee show not happening this year, coming back in 2016. Understand there was a scheduling conflict at the Town Toyota Center.
Yeah, done the show 2 different years, went over quite well in the Wenatchee area. We had our dates we thought secured for 15. Mark from the Toyota Center assured us these dates were fine, and then he found out that the Special Olympics, which they host part of the Special Olympics, uses the Town Toyota Center for opening ceremonies and closing ceremonies, and so the dates that we were going to be putting on that show was exactly the same weekend that they needed it for the Special Olympics. And with the other sportsman shows around, the dates available, it just did not work out to use the facility on any other date. And so with that, we just had to kind of pull ourselves in and say, well, we'll give it the year off, and Mark understands, and we'll just put our best foot forward next year.
Well, there you go. It's a real loss for all of us who live in the Wenatchee area, but there's 2 shows close by. Again, that's the Tri-City show at the Track in Pasco, January 16th through the 18th, and then the Central Washington Sportsman Show, the Yakima Sun Dome, that's February 20th through the 22nd. We'll be there too. Come visit us. And one other thing I love about your shows, Merle, is the get in one day, pay once, and you're in for the entire show, all 3 days. Is that still going on?
Absolutely. Yeah, you come Friday and get your ticket on Friday and say there's a seminar on Saturday or Sunday that you want to see that isn't going on Friday, because a lot of my speakers, what they do is they'll do a seminar one day, Saturday will be a different one, Sunday will be a different one yet, that you can learn more. And so you have the option of coming back all 3 days if you'd like for the price of one, yes.
Perfect. All right, we are out of time, but folks, if you want to find out more about the Tri-City Show and the Central Washington Sportsman Show, go to the Schuler Productions website. Really easy, Schuler, SHUYLER Productions.com. That's SchulerProductions.com. You'll find out all the information you need about these two great shows. Merle, thanks for telling us all about them. Looking forward to seeing you in the Tri-Cities.
You're welcome, John. Looking forward to seeing you too.
Hide and seek, there you are, just a boy back then. I didn't know anything.
That's the sound you hear when a fish hits the new Sonic bait fish from Max Lure Company. This metal lure can be cast, trolled, or jigged and will catch just about anything that swims in the sea, the river, or the lake. The Sonic bait fish has a unique vibration and flutter that can be rigged in 7 different ways. With all sorts of eye-catching colors and weights available, you'll be reaching for the Sonic bait fish as your go-to lure. It's the Sonic bait fish. And that's another fish on. Only from Max Lure Company.
Sonic booms not included with the Sonic Bait Fish Strike unless you are fishing for jet fighters.
We're back with John Cruz on Northwestern Outdoors Radio.
It's time for another Max Minute.
Fish on!
And this time we're broadcasting from the floor of the Pacific Northwest Sportsman Show in Portland, Oregon. We're talking to Brian Timm. He's the owner of Timm's Custom Rods. He's also a pro staffer for Max Lure Company and an avid walleye angler. Brian, I understand that you can catch actually quite a few walleye in the Willamette River, a place that people don't really think of.
They're in the Willamette, basically from the falls clear down to St. Helen.
Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about this a little bit more. Are there a lot of walleye there?
I seem to do pretty good. I think there's more than people think.
So let's go ahead and talk about catching these walleye. Is it like in the Columbia, when you find a school, you want to stay with that school?
That's what I fish it the same way as I fish the Columbia. Once you find them, you stay with them.
Okay, and let's talk about tactics and Max Lure products you like to use. How do you go about catching these fish?
I use basically all smile blades anymore. In fact, all the walleye I caught last year on worm rigs was with a smile blade.
So are you basically just using a bottom walker and then just a smile blade, like a double whammy setup, or are you making your own?
I'm making up my own, but it's basically, Max makes stuff that it's exactly what I use too.
So you can use the Wally Pop, you can use just a smile blade, you can use a smile blade slow death rig, but the bottom line for you is you like that smile blade, that's what's making the difference.
The smile blade makes the difference because it'll spin whether you're just barely moving or you can go as fast as you want and it still spins.
Walleye in the Willamette River, who would have thunk? Brian, thanks for telling us all about it on Northwestern Outdoors Radio.
Thank you.
I'm Bob Loomis and I fish for walleye. Sometimes when I'm out on the water I feel like a destroyer captain hunting for targets with my electronics. I'm not hunting submarines though, I'm hunting fish, and when I find that big one on the fish finder, I want to make sure she's going to bite. That's where the Smile Blade Slow Death Rig from Max Lure comes in. The Smile Blade spins and flashes at ultra slow speeds, and the one-of-a-kind red hook keeps that bait moving in a way the fish can't resist. It's the Smile Blade Slow Death Rig. You're the destroyer, this is your depth charge. Only from Max Lure.
Wake up to winter in Wallowa County. Grab your camera and don your skis for some Nordic skiing adventure at Salt Creek Summit or Wallowa Lake. Or spend the day on the family-friendly slopes of Fergie Ridge. Or slip into a set of skates and enjoy some time on the ice at our outdoor ice rink. Need to warm up? Then grab a cup of coffee or hot chocolate at one of our fine coffee and confectionery shops. And when evening comes, enjoy some of Wallowa County's fine dining and gaze at the stars before you dream of tomorrow's adventures. Your winter adventure begins at www.wallowacountychamber.com.
It's time for the big ones. That's right. The two biggest shows in the Pacific Northwest are coming up soon. The Washington Sportsman Show is first, taking place at the Puyallup Fairgrounds, January 21st through the 25th. And then it's time for the second largest sportsman show in the entire nation. The Pacific Northwest Sportsman Show takes place February 4th through the 8th at the Portland Expo Center. Looking for a big show? Well, they're coming up soon in Puyallup, January 21st through the 25th, and Portland, February 4th through the 8th. Go to otshows.com. That's otshows.com to find out more, and don't you dare miss out on the big ones.
Wetlands are some of the most important ecosystems on Earth. but our wetlands are quickly disappearing. Find out how you can help. Join Ducks Unlimited today.
You're back with Northwestern Outdoors Radio. We're talking razor clamming this week, and we are broadcasting from the Ocean Shores Interpretive Center. We're talking to Steve Green, who loves to go razor clamming and is going to share his passion with you. Steve, welcome to the show.
Good morning. How you folks doing today?
Doing great, Steve. And let's go ahead and break down razor clamming. Really popular activity here along the southwest Washington coast and along the Oregon coast as well. Why do people love to go razor clamming so much?
Well, probably first because they're so delicious, but I think also because it's a great tradition and it's a family event, so the whole family can get out and get involved to have some great quality time on the beach. We have some great tides coming up. Actually, I'd like to remind people that low tide is not the time you want to get there. Because if you get there at low tide, the tide is going to start coming in when you get there, and you're going to probably lose your opportunity to dig. It's best to come out an hour or two in advance to make sure you've got plenty of time to dig before the tide comes in. Unlike bay clams, these guys can go about a foot a minute and run from you as you dig.
Oh, wow. And I want to get more into that tactics in a minute, but I guess we probably need to slow down and talk about where do people go? I know there's 4 beaches in southwest Washington. In Oregon, where there's an estimated 16 million razor clams along the northern Oregon coast. It's pretty much wide open over there. But in Washington, you're limited to 4 beaches. What are those? Where are they located?
Well, our beach here on Ocean Shores is actually called Copalis Beach. And that's confused with a lot of folks because they think that it's once you pass the Copalis River north. It's the opposite. Ocean Shores is actually listed as Copalis. Once you cross the Copalis River, north of there is what they call Mock Rocks. And Mock Rocks has digging at Iron Springs, Pacific Beach, and Roosevelt Beach, all the way up to the Moclips River, which is then tribal land. And the tribe, because of a treaty signed a long time ago, they dig their clams all the way up here onto the Copalis Beach here in Ocean Shores. And some days and nights you'll see the natives out there digging, and they'll have signs that it's off limits to the general public for digging because they do a lot of sport and commercial digging. First, they do their 50% quota, and then the state opens it up after that, after they've assessed how many clams they are, and that's what dictates our tides here. You'll find, though, that the tribe does do a lot more of their digging up here on the Copalis Beach. So that's why you've really got to look at your tide book or the beaches that are open. If you have a 5, 6, 7, 8 dig like we do have coming up, I believe it's 7 or 8 days, but Copalis is only 4 days. So after that, you're going to have to cross the Copalis River to what they call Mock Rocks, and you can finish your digging there.
We've also got a couple of beaches down south, Twin Harbors and Long Beach. Where are they located exactly?
Twin Harbors would be Tokeland, Grayland, the Westport area up there, and they get some years between 50 and 80 digs because those beaches there are not shared with a tribe, so it's all general digging there. So they do get a lot of digs, and Long Beach is far south from here, and they also get a lot of digs too. Ours are probably the most limited here because of splitting them up with the tribe.
Well, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about, now that we know where to go, when to go. We're mainly talking nighttime digs here in the winter. Why is that? How come you get to dig during the day in the spring and at night in the winter?
Well, it's taken me a long time to even question that. But if you look at a tide book, through the fall and the winter, your lowest minus tides are in the evening. And now this starts getting into astronomy and the moon phases, which gets very complicated to me. But a tide book will show you that your minus tides are in the PM, in the evening, and come springtime, usually around March, the time of our Razor Clam Festival, it's going to switch over to your minus tides are in the morning. And legally, you can't dig in the morning if it's an evening tide. But even if you were to try, you're not going to get your clams because the ocean has to recede enough to expose the razor clams at that point. Otherwise, the water's not going to be low enough for you to dig. So a lot of people look forward to the switch over into the springtime. And last year, we went till June 1st, which is really unusual. Usually, you'll go into May at the latest. Late spring and summer is when they spawn, so they're off limits at that time.
You're listening to Northwestern Outdoors Radio. We're broadcasting from the Ocean Shores Interpretive Center. We're talking to Steve Green about razor clamming along the coast. Now, Steve, we've talked about where to go. We've talked about why you're going to go at night. So obviously you're going to need a headlamp or a lantern. But what other gear do you need to be successful? And you're going to have to explain exactly what a clam gun is for those people in Montana and Idaho listening that have no clue as to what a clam gun is.
Well, our clam guns don't come in 10 and 12 gauge. They are, well, back in the old days, in the late 1800s and early 1900s, they constructed them out of old stovepipes. They're a suction device that'll pull the sand out of the hole and get the clam for you. Unfortunately, pulling a clam tube out of the sand is really, really hard for people that dig beyond their years, and it's really hard on your back. And some people do fall to cardiac problems. I've seen it over the years. It's a cleaner way to dig. You don't have to get down on your hands and get dirty and messy. But one thing about a tube, if you pull the tube up out of the sand and it releases your clam, you do have to keep all clams that come out of the hole because the mortality rate is fairly high. Think about half of them will die once they're up exposed out of the beach. If you dig with a shovel, it's easier on your back if you don't mind getting dirty. If you dig just a little bit off the top and then reach down with your hand, you don't have to take a clam up out of the sand. If you haven't pulled them up out of the hole, you can leave the little clam in there. That's one of the reasons I prefer to use a shovel, because I don't get stuck with a lot of little clams and I don't break as many. But once that clam is out of the hole, you are required to keep, because even bay clams, if you pull them up off the beach for too long and put them back, the mortality rate's pretty high. So that's why we have to keep them.
And I guess we also need to bring up the fact that if you damage the clam too, whether it's with a shovel or a clam gun, you have to keep it, don't you?
Yeah, they just require a little bit more cleaning to get the sand out, but they're just as good, especially if you like chowder. And it's fun to dig razor clams, even if you don't like razor clams yourself. They make good Christmas presents. All my Christmas presents this year were wrapped and frozen, so I gave some people some very cold packages. I've traded mine from anything from farm fresh eggs to cranberry pot roast to some folks that can't get out here and dig. So you make a lot of friends once you end up with a lot of clams around here as well.
I like it. I've heard of going to farmers' doors and asking permission to hunt with smoked salmon, but I never thought of razor clams. I'm going to have to go ahead and try this trick. Let's talk about one other thing, too. There's a special permit for people that are disabled and can't dig their clams. There's a special harvester's permit. Why don't you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, if you have a doctor's slip that says you're not physically able to dig your razor clams, you can take a doctor's slip to the Department of Fish and Wildlife, and locally in our area, that would be the Montesano headquarters of the Fish and Wildlife, and they will issue a permit that you can hand off to another licensed digger, and they can dig your clams for you as long as you're within eyesight. I'm not sure of the distance away. It's quite a ways, but you can dig for that person and hand them to them and put them in their own bucket. So you're never too old to get out and dig clams. And then the little kids, they are not required to have a license up till they're 15 years old. But your children, to keep the adults out of trouble, your children do have to have some active participation in the digging process. That's going to be getting down there in the hole, maybe picking up their own clam, trying to dig with that shovel the best they can. Not just sitting in a stroller watching mom and dad dig for you out there.
Well, there you go. All sorts of ways to enjoy this, no matter what your age. And folks, this is a great opportunity to get outdoors and have a lot of fun. One more thing I want to ask you, the daily limit.
The daily limit is now 15 clams. It used to be quite a bit more back in the day. And when you're out there digging on some years, you will see more clam holes and clams than you ever could imagine. And people that come from the big cities and come all the way down here to only get 15 clams think that's quite unfair. But you got to realize that when these clams are born, they're plankton. And they, for the first few weeks of their life, they're floating around aimlessly as plankton for every other creature in the ocean to eat up. And as they grow, crabs are eating a lot of those clams also. And the little babies that are up towards the top of the sand are getting picked off by a lot of the shorebirds that come and migrate on our beaches too. So there's a lot of us animals out there that are eating those same clams.
All right, we have got to go. But folks, if you want to find out more about razor clamming, there's 3 ways to do it. You can go to the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife website, the Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife website. Both of them have got quite a bit of information, not just regulations, but tips and tactics and all sorts of other good info about razor clamming. Or, if you're in Ocean Shores, stop by the Interpretive Center, talk to Steve Green or some of the other staff members. This is an incredible place. Not only are you going to find out about razor clam, you're going to find out about history and the natural history and all the great stuff that you can do and see here in Ocean Shores. Steve, thanks for taking the time. We sure appreciate it, and looking forward to seeing you out on the beach.
And thank you very much. And please keep an eye on the ocean. The ocean's been a little grouchy this season so far. The ocean can come up and around you and side to side, so please keep your eye on the beach.
Good advice. Thanks again, Steve.
You're welcome.
You demand quality performance from your binoculars, whether you use them in the field, on the water, or at a stadium. But you don't want to spend a fortune. That's where the BX Mackenzie binoculars from Leupold come in. These armored, waterproof binoculars are both comfortable and dependable. Look for your Mackenzie binoculars at quality sporting goods retailers near you, to include your Cabela's, Sportsman's Warehouse, or Northwest Bi-Mart stores. BX Mackenzie, bringing your world into sharper focus, only from Leupold.
Sneaker waves are huge swells that come out of nowhere. Keep an eye on the ocean. Respect the beach.
Welcome back to Northwestern Outdoors Radio. This portion of the show is brought to you by Mardon Resort at Eastern Washington's Potholes Reservoir. I got to talk to Cicely at the well-stocked resort store the other day, who says Potholes Reservoir is starting to freeze over. So it's a transition period, and until the ice is safe enough to venture out on for perch and other species, the fishing's going to be, as you might imagine, a little slow on the reservoir. Goose hunting is still going very good in the basin, and duck hunting was also really good until the reservoir started freezing up. So now the challenge is going to be to find open water to find the birds. 2 nearby places to look, Frenchman's and Winchester Wasteways. As a matter of fact, I'm going to probably head to one of those 2 destinations tomorrow to see if I can get into some waterfowl. If you're in the area, drop by the store. Hunting and fishing gear is available in abundance and at prices cheaper than you would expect. Find out more about everything Mardon Resort has to offer at mardonresort.com. That's mardonresort.com, where the fish bite, but we don't. Next on Northwestern Outdoors Radio, we've been talking about razor clamming along the Oregon and Washington coast, and hopefully we've motivated you to get out there and get some. But once you get them, you're probably wondering, what do I do with them? Well, we've got just the guy. It's Doug Graybeal. He's the executive chef for the Shilo Restaurant and Lounge at Ocean Shores. Just got back from a stay there, and I'll tell you what, this is a great hotel to stay at. It's right on the beach, big rooms, pet-friendly, and the restaurant and lounge is fantastic. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute, but first things first, Doug, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Doug, let's go ahead and talk about making razor clam chowder. Now, you actually put out a really good bowl of chowder at the Shilo restaurant. I absolutely loved what I had. And I also know that you are, well, first place, an award-winning chowder cook in the big seafood extravaganza that happens every year in Ocean Shores.
That's correct. That was several years ago, but yeah.
For those that really don't have an idea of how to cook clam chowder with razor clams, go ahead and talk us through it. How do we go about making a good bowl of homemade clam chowder?
Well, first you got to start with a flavoring agent, and most people use like a bacon or a salted pork of some kind.
Okay.
Personally, I use a smoked fish, whether it's salmon or trout, smoked trout, and that will enhance your seafood flavor of the clam. Generally, a clam doesn't have a robust flavor to it. It's a subtle, delicate type flavor, and you're trying to enhance that. So what I did with my award-winning chowder was I used smoked salmon to enhance that flavor. So also your potatoes, a lot of people use a really starchy potato, and that will cloud up your base, give it kind of a potato flavor. I use red potatoes with skin on. That way it gives it a nice texture of the potato, but there's not a lot of starch in the red potato, so it just, you get the potato and not an excess amount of flavor. And I also use equal parts, whether it's 1 quart to 1 quart to 1 quart of milk, 2% milk, half and half, and heavy cream. You want that nice creamy texture when you're into a good chowder, and that's what I look for when I go to places and eat and try their chowder. You kind of tell if it's a water-based type chowder. So I've always used a mixture of heavy cream, half and half, and 2% milk in equal parts.
Well, Doug, you've got me hungry all over again. And folks, if you want to try some really good chowder, again, head to the Shilo restaurant in Ocean Shores. I love the chowder that you serve there, but you serve other seafood dishes as well. You've got a razor clam linguine, and that was pretty impressive too.
Yeah, that's a unique dish that you don't see very often. It's got a lot of flavor to it, It's not a cream sauce, so it's not real heavy. It's a white wine-based sauce, and it's really flavorful. And as long as you don't cook the clams too long, it's really tender, and I enjoy eating.
One other thing I've got to mention, and I talked about this the last time I stayed at the Shilo and Ocean Shores, you've got the best appetizer in the world. It's that coconut shrimp. What is that sauce that it's in? It is delicious.
Oh, the mango chutney sauce.
Oh, I love it, love it, love it.
That's a Shilo staple pretty much with all our restaurants on the coast. They'll have the coconut prawns.
Well, folks, go during happy hour because you'll get a great deal on those coconut prawns, and then maybe get some steamer clams, and then get some chowder, and then get that razor clam linguine, and you are going to be a happy, happy person. They've got other seafood dishes as well. You can go to the Shiloans website, just shiloans.com, go to their restaurants, and you can actually check out the menus for the various restaurants, including the one at Ocean Shores. I think you're going to be impressed. I think you're going to want to go, and when you do, you're going to be happy. Doug, we've got to go. But thanks for sharing this great clam chowder recipe and news about your restaurant on Northwestern Outdoors Radio.
Thank you.
Good hunters know before you take that shot, you've got to see the whole picture. Now, the best way to do that is with a spotting scope, binoculars, or a rifle scope, but it's got to be from Leupold. Now, Leupold is a Northwest company with a reputation that stretches across the world for making superior optics. The kind of optics that allow you to see what you need before making that stock or pulling that trigger. Look for Leupold Optics at your local Cabela store, Dick's Sporting Goods, or online at leupold.com. Leupold, America's optical authority.
It's Sportsman Show season, and two great ones are coming your way in Washington this year, courtesy of Schuler Productions. The Tri-City Sportsman Show kicks off the season at the track in Pasco from January 16th through the 18th, and the always popular Central Washington Sportsman Show returns to the Yakima Sun Dome February 20th through the 22nd. Both shows are going to have lots of guides, outfitters, and other exhibitors to include sporting goods dealers that are going to offer some great deals. There's also fun for the kids who can catch fish and more. Throw-in seminars on fishing, hunting, and camp cooking, along with archery and air rifle ranges at the track for the kids, and a horn and antler competition at the Sun Dome, and you won't want to miss either show. It's the Tri-City Show, January 16th through the 18th, and the Central Washington Show, February 20th through the 22nd. We'll see you there.
We're back with one last cast from John Cruz on Northwestern Outdoors Radio.
Welcome back to the show. Before we go, let's talk about one more thing having to do with razor clamming. There's a big festival that takes place every year in Ocean Shores. It's the annual Razor Clam Festival and Seafood Extravaganza. This year it's happening March 20th through the 22nd. With us here to tell us more about it is Dianne Hansen. Dianne, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
So what is this Razor Clam Festival all about?
It is all about what we do here at the beach. It is about teaching people on the value of living here, how people make a living here, what you can get off of our beaches, the fun that you can have. And one of the big things is letting the different local restaurants compete for the best of the clam chowder. And that is probably the biggest of the events, and everything else is just the icing on the cake.
Where is this taking place?
Takes place every year at the Ocean Shores Convention Center, and it's always the third full weekend in March. So it's gone from a one-day event to a few years ago to a 2-day event. Last year it expanded to a 3-day event. So it just keeps growing and growing, and it is just a fun weekend full of family time. So if they're here, it's a family event.
Now, I've got to ask, does this coincide with one of the planned digs along the coast?
It does not coincide with the planned dig, because our goal is to get people here. The Chamber's goal is to get people here when normally they would not be here. And we are full when there's a clam dig. Now, according to the Department of Fish and Wildlife, we are going to be lucky this year. And in fact, it looks like we are going to have a dig. And it's the best of all worlds. We're getting a Friday night dig, a Saturday night dig, and then Sunday it switches to morning digs. So they'll be able to come out and play on Friday at the festival, go for a dig, play at the festival on Saturday, go for a dig, and then get up Sunday morning and dig before they come back for the festival again.
Oh, this sounds fantastic. So let's talk about some of the things going on at the festival. And we're going to, I guess, start off with this whole competition. Do we get to try some of the chowder that's being made?
You do. What we do is we sell you a passport, and you get a deep discount for just buying a card that allows you to go around and taste all the different samples, and then you get to vote which one you think was the best one. So we have judges that judge, and so we have the professional choice, but then the real one that's really fun is the people's choice. And what's really interesting is how the first place winner with the judges might take third place with the people. So it's really, the way people like their chowder, the crunch, the more milky, the more vegetables in it. But we've had as many as 14 local restaurants compete, so it gets quite competitive out there. And in addition to that, they also get to do a creative clam entree, something that's not even on their menu, something they just kind of said, I'm going to try this. We've had clam hot dogs and just very interesting, clam on a stick. So, and then we added the seafood festival part of it a couple years ago. So now they've got the Creative Seafood Festival. In addition to that, we also have an amateur clam chowder. So if you're out there and you think you make the best clam chowder, come join us for the amateur clam chowder contest. And it gets very competitive. We've got mothers competing against sons and cousins competing against each other. One of our local IGA grocery store checkers has been in it for probably the last 7 years, and he's been first and second and third. So the amateur chowder contest is just as much fun as the professional.
Oh, this sounds fun and tasty, too. Let's talk about some of the other events going on. It looks like there's a lot of live music and some other entertainment like that. There's also art, it looks like, with a clam theme.
What we do is we get donated clam guns and shovels, and we put it out there to the community and to our different schools also. So we have the kids versus and adults, 2 different categories, and they decorate these clam guns. And it is amazing what they do with clam guns and shovels. And then we auction them off, and a part of those proceeds goes back to one of our local charities.
This sounds fantastic. Again, folks, it's the 9th Annual Razor Clam Festival and Seafood Extravaganza, taking place March 20th, the 21st, and 22nd. Make plans to come out here to Ocean Shores, because this is going to be fun. You can do your clamming and celebrate all things razor clamming related and get some great chowder to boot. We better give people a website and a Facebook page before we go.
You can go to oceanshores.org/clams, and that will take you to our chamber page. And also, if you're interested in being a vendor, you can also download the applications, and we'll look you over and see if you're a good fit. And at Facebook, you can go to look for Ocean Shores Razor Clam Festival on Facebook. You'll get to see the past winners, other pictures of the event, and just see what a great time we have.
That's Ocean Shores Razor Clam Festival on Facebook, and the website again, oceanshores.org/clams. Dianne, thanks for telling us all about it. This sounds fabulous.
Well, what we like to say, it's clamtastic.
It's not only clamming season, it's also sportsman show season in the Northwest, and there's a show going on this weekend through Sunday the 11th. It's taking place at Metro Park in Billings. It's a great Rocky show. Kind of kicks things off here in the Northwest, and this is always a popular show. As you heard earlier when we talked to Merle, the Tri-City Sportsman Show is coming up January 16th to the 18th at the track in Pasco. I love this show. And after that, we've got 2 big shows coming your way. The first, the Washington Sportsman Show, taking place at the Fairgrounds at Puyallup, January 21st through the 25th. And then the Pacific Northwest Sportsman Show at the Portland Expo Center. This one's taking place February 4th through the 8th. It's the second largest sportsman show in the entire nation. We are going to be there, and I hope you'll come visit us. We've got another reminder for those of you listening in eastern Idaho this week who are looking for something to do. No sportsman shows there, but the Soda Springs Chamber of Commerce is hosting their annual Winter Carnival and Fishing Derby on January 17th from 6:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. The Fishing Derby is actually going to be held at a pond in Clear Springs, and there's going to be prizes for the biggest trout caught, and some of those trout are really big, like over 9 pounds. Find out more by going to sodachamber.com and going to their events page. While you're on the web, go to our website, northwesternoutdoors.com. You'll find links to find out more about our guests, and you'll also find audio from last week's show, just in case you missed some of it. We've got a Facebook page, too. Northwestern Outdoors Radio is the title. Simply go to Northwestern Outdoors Radio on Facebook, like us, follow us, join the 1,700 plus other people that are doing so and getting information that doesn't always make it on the show. Another website I want to tell you about is RenoViolaOutdoors.com. This is an internet radio station dedicated to outdoors radio. There's over 30 outdoor shows that air there 7 days a week. We are proud to be part of the lineup, and I think you'll enjoy listening to outdoors on the internet anytime you want. That's RenoViolaOutdoors.com. That's all for this week. I hope you enjoyed our music by Frank Prenevost. He's a very talented man from Minnesota who puts together a lot of bluegrass music and outdoors themed music too. Check it out. It's Frank Prenevost is the man's name, and he's got stuff on cdbaby.com. Until next time, take care, God bless, and make it a point to spend some time outdoors.
Tag me back. Let's put pennies on a railroad track. Fireflies in a mason jar. Hide and seek, there you are.